Hey guys, Matt here. Welcome back to Ear to the Ground, episode 4 we're up to at the moment. Thanks for checking in. For those who aren't familiar with the series, this is a show more of a podcast style, where we go in, we take a look at some of the top players, look through all the selected teams, work out who the rookies might be to pick, who the primos you might be targeting are, and who's hot for the drop and who's hot for the picking. We've been blessed with Thursday night teams again this week, so for the first time in about a year now, Thursday night teams. So we'll go over that because there's a lot to look through there, and it's great not to have to theorize about a bunch of stuff. Not that there's a huge amount of info this week, but going forward it'll be great. Before we get cracked into it, let's bit of housekeeping out of the way. Thanks everyone again for the interaction on the video just gone. Same with this one. Throw this one a like. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed and that sort of business. It really does help. So let's crack straight in, but let's not do the team stuff. Let's pull up the teams and have a look and see if you didn't know, we can have a look through. So what we look for here as part of the process is just relevant players. So Mansell's managed, expected or omitted, to be honest, but managed. It is what it is. Made a couple of price increases there. Neither team really relevant here. Crows, Melbourne. Bit of work back here. If you didn't drop Walker, I guess you might be keen to see him back. Nothing really here. No big names here. Missing Jordan being the one from Melbourne that he's still playing, which is great. Carlton and Hawthorn. No Brockman again, so that's disappointing. Hopefully he comes back in at some point, but it's almost too late now. I don't think we're going to get anything out of Brockman. He might be handy cash towards the end of the year, but I think that's a dead pick. So when's this game? Saturday, I think it is. So yeah, not a real... Can't even loop Brockman in any meaningful way. So it'd be Sunday, wouldn't it? But nonetheless, you can't really loop him. And doesn't look like Carlton have done anything huge as well. Owie's still playing if you picked him up, or if you plan on picking him up, he's still in. And that's about it. Cripps names in the middle, that sort of business. So nothing really huge out of this game. Freo and Sydney. You got Tracy back. I know a lot of people have got Tracy as their third ruck. Whether that is good for you or not, I don't know. I suppose it's another price increase that you'll get out of him. You won't be able to loop him though. So if you've been looping that third ruck, well, there's a bit of a spanner. But again, at least you're going to get another price increase. And Luke Ryan back. That's one to watch. You'd be really interested in this here. There's actually a bit of news in the Freo Sydney game. Not only is it extremely difficult to tip, there's heaps. Brayshaw injured, that's massive. I know a lot of people took him in 2 weeks ago, and now he's out. So what are you going to do? Are you going to do like I did with Bolton, and you're going to hold him for a little while? We'll see the length of what that injury is. Luke Ryan back will be really interesting, though. He previously a known scorer. Not a lot from Sydney. They're still rocking the same blokes that they've been playing for quite a while. Warner's still in, which is nice. Dylan Stevens is in. He's a handy guy. Mills ripping it up on the side. I don't really care where they're named on field. I think there was an article the other day where Bevo had named Caleb Daniel as second follower or the first follower, Ruck Rover or something. And he started getting texts about being back on the ball, and he just laughed and said, I don't think that's going to happen, and he didn't. So it's just one of those things coaches do. I think they throw, especially this week, they're going to throw names on the board. They're not really bothered about the accuracy of it. Jordan Clark out is pretty massive in the Cats-Suns game. I know that a lot of people might still have Jordan Clark. That was the risk in that North game where he was the sub. That's when I got off of him. It's too dangerous to be having Jordan Clark now. He's a sub risk. He probably, if you look through these, one of these three will be the sub, and you'd think they'd want to get games through Guthrie and Holm, but same with Clark. I feel like Clark probably ends up being the sub, which could be an even bigger disaster if you're planning on looping him. So keep an eye on sub news for this team. Bose is obviously a big one for the Suns, and Farah, who was a lot of people went with a couple of weeks back as their rookie, he's now out. So read about his injury somewhere, but he's going to struggle to get back in this team with these names coming in. These are all genuine names here. So Sexton, Holman, Miller, and Zach Smith, these aren't fringe players. These are real players coming back. So Farah, you may have seen the last of Farah. And Bose, yeah, if you went with him, it was probably the wrong pick anyway. But if you went with him, that's unfortunate, to say the least. Look through the lineup quickly just to have an idea, because doesn't seem to be any huge outs. It's weird seeing Gold Coast. Throw it in the comments, have a chat. But isn't it weird that Gold Coast aren't really relevant for Supercoach this year? They don't really have anyone that is really attractive. Whereas probably for the last, since they've been in the league, they've always had interesting rookies that you pick up. They've always had interesting, and then high-end premiums through Ablett, through just Ablett, I guess. Oh, Rao, the last year, but he was a rookie as well. But it's strange not having anyone relevant at all in the Suns. It just seems like such a strange thing to just look at them and think, it is what it is. Dogs Saints, Rowan Marshall, so that's huge for me. He's out now, but like I said on the Sunday, I'll be trading him. And if you don't have Marshall and you had your eye on him, take your eye clear off of him, because he's not. You can't have this. He's injured. He's injured in every game he plays. Highmore out, like I did expect it. Potentially he gets named as the sub, but you'd think he goes into the VFL, and Ben Long plays as the sub, you'd think. We'll see though, but we got our one price rise out of Highmore, and if you watch this episode, if you watch episode 3 of this, you'll know that I probably called it. They'll pick him one time, he'll get one price increase, and he'll get turfed. This is the last you'll see of Highmore, I think. Started really strong, was obviously in good shape, perhaps had a good summer training. Hasn't looked that impressive when he came back, and obviously off the field he for whatever reason the Saints don't like him. So, he's only a first year player, so, and they're aiming for a lot better. It is what it is. Unfortunate. I would be happy to get rid of Highmore if you had to, and I don't think I will this week, but it's certainly something to think about. Another big one here, Collingwood and Port. It was in the press conference, I reckon. No, it was AFL 360. Hinkley let this one slip. Maybe it was the press conference. I can't think either way now. But he let slip that Lachie Jones. People were asking about Butters, and classic Hinkley, just didn't talk about Butters at all. Compared the two injuries of Lachie Jones and Butters, and said that Lachie Jones is a week ahead of Butters. So if you want to read that, he's been named in the team, and Hinkley actually said on Monday that he'll play. So Lachie Jones is in this week. So there's a trade you have to make if you don't have him. He's the only rookie left. But check back tomorrow to make sure he's actually named, because this is a Sunday game now. But if he is named, then get him in. And what that would mean is, based on everything Port's been telling us for the last month, Butters is back the week after. And that's a pretty big forward that you could be bringing in next week too. So keep that in your back of your mind. Lachie Jones, if he comes straight back in the team, Butters doesn't play through the SNFL. He comes straight in as well. And it looks like Ollie Henry is out. And I think I spoke about it last week. I spoke about it somewhere. Ollie Henry is not very good at footy. Young lad. I don't think he's ready for AFL. You can spam play the kids all you want, but I think they're doing him no favours playing him at the moment. And it looks like Murphy might be back, and there's no reason why he wouldn't be. So we'll see. Again, tomorrow about 5-6ish, you get that call. It's going to be pretty big, because Murphy, Mansell, Highmore, they could all be out, and that's my pain point right there. I think what I'll end up doing is just bringing Jones and then just having him on the field and hoping and double checking that he gets picked, and we'll work something out there. And now, for those of you who aren't familiar, you may not be familiar with teams. Sunday, you only get the full 22. You don't get, with some emergency, sorry. So you get the full 24, I think it is. You don't get the proper team playing. So you don't really know who's picked and who's not. Essendon, no Waterman added. Oh, Alec Waterman added to this team. That could be pleasing. It'd be great to get a couple of extra points there, or a couple of extra dollars from Waterman. Devon Smith now out. So now they've got Stringer and they've got Smith out. I just wonder what they're going to do. Smith plays through the middle, but he spends a lot of time up forward, and Stringer was basically just a forward. You would think that structure now needs an Alec Waterman in the team. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I wouldn't field him, but fingers crossed. And then North Melbourne have done something interesting here. I can't actually see their team through this. Oh, I've already got it open. That's why. Tom Powell on the bench, really interesting. He had quite a poor game on the weekend. Even though they won, he was quite poor. Probably his worst game this year. You start to wonder. He didn't play against men last year. He only played in the under-18s the entire time, and he looked super impressive. But how long can the kid be basically M2 for them, their second best midfielder? Or, how long before you need a rest? Their bye is quite early, so maybe they're trying to cheese and get him a couple of rests before the bye. So maybe they might rest him here or the week after. They might rest him coming up so he gets a couple of weeks of including the bye to kickstart him again for the back half of the season. So I think everyone's traded him out either last week and probably will trade him this week. It's going to be awkward though for me personally, because we'll go into it in a minute. But Marshall is an expensive forward, and Powell's an expensive mid, and Lockie Jones is one of those guys. So could end up with a bit of cash in pocket, which may not be too bad. You want to bring some cash into the buys. Last game, Giants and Eagles. The only big one there is Toby Green's injured. He's out for quite a while. So, unlucky. For those with Mumford who still somehow have Mumford as their ruck 2... have Flynn as their ruck 2, Mumford named in the emergency. So, keep that in mind. Actually, where's he been named? He's named in the emergencies with Flynn named as the ruck, but that doesn't mean anything to me. Toby Green out is pretty huge if you got him in. And West Coast, for whatever reason, just haven't been relevant this year at all. So they're the teams. Some really good stuff there. And man, it's good to have teams back. You'll love to see it. Less stress. For me, it hadn't been a huge deal. I think I got burned. I might have got burned actually with Highmore. Highmore wouldn't be in my team if not for teams, but I had to make that trade, so I can't remember why now, but I had to do it and I got burned. So it's great to see them all there, and Well, let's crack into the team and let's talk about what I'm going to address and what everyone else might address, and then we'll go into to what everyone's trading, because you can see here most traded out, most traded in. We can see it in another section too, but a lot of people going late on Riley Collier Dawkins. I think that'll change, but for me personally, I've only, with Highmore probably out, or Highmore definitely out, Mansell out, and Murphy, I have to address the defense, really, don't I? I can't afford this to happen. It's really quite frustrating, so I'll do something here. Now, whether that's through a Tom Powell and Marshall, we'll see. So, I'm looking to square this away, clean this up, and just have a regular 6 that I like. I did Butters the week before. Turned Butters into Lions. Beautiful. But, yeah, I'll have to do something here. The other one is the midfield. So, Powell is on field for a lot of people. You're going to need to keep an eye on whether he's picked or not. I just get the feeling that he will get picked. I just don't think it's the right time to rest him. But keep an eye on that tomorrow, because that could be a big dilemma if you planned on keeping him in your on field. And what might end up having to happen is, well, for me, because I've got Bolton sitting here, I'll try to get McNeil in, but that hurts for some late changes. You know, my bench is, everyone's bench is very thin. Mine is certainly thin at the moment. The 2 rucks are fine. Flynn named currently. They've named him as Green, so we'll see. They may do some stuff. They haven't officially dropped him, so he could go up again. Like I said, I'll hold Flynn, and if he's playing over that bye, I think he might share the bye, which is frustrating. But let's have a look. Is he round? I've probably done this a bunch of times. Round 12 bye. It'd be cool to trade him out at that point, but he'd be also handy cover to finish the buys with if he's playing. So that could be cool. Forward line here. Marshall's, that's massive. So he's out. What have they got written here? This is expected to return 15-16, right? So that's done. You don't look at this guy when he comes back. And it was a mistake to trade him. And I'll correct that pretty quickly. What is everyone doing as far as... So this is relevant info for my team. We'll go into players and have a look. But it seems like Tom Powell, Chad Warner, obviously Marshall are the big ones. Some people flip it on Scotty and Flynn. I think that's probably not the right call. Most traded in, I think that's... Now that Lockie Jones is named, I think Lockie Jones is going to be the most traded in. And Zorko, which... Shout out to a lot of the guys in the chat. In the comments, I should say. Geez, a lot of people recommended Marshall when I recommended Zorko when I was tossing up between Zorko, Marshall, and Green. Hindsight is obviously 2020, but Zorko is the clear winner there. Marshall, I think, ended up being the second best choice. I did start to think that he mightn't have been even as good as Green, but his potential was there to score. So I'm not hugely annoyed about it. We've been over this, and I'm justifying it. But 132, I didn't pick him. I didn't have him for that, so I don't get that score. 86, he played the full game. He was okay. And you take 86 from a forward. 107 against Gold Coast, missed a full quarter, and 43 in half a game, maybe less than half a game. So the potential to score was there, but he was just injured in every single game he played. So... Sadly, it was the wrong call. Going forward, he will be a very good player. He just needs to remain fit. And it could be even something to look at. He'll probably be a 500k player. Jeez, we're really looking forward now. But he could be a Gorn replacement next year. If he's got the ruck on him, which he will. If he's got the forward ruck on him, and Gorn stops putting out these big numbers, and if Luke Jackson continues to elevate his role... and Gorn scales back, and you know, if at the start of the season Gorn is 650 next year, you definitely think about a fit Rowan Marshall with a full preseason in him. You definitely want to think about that as your ruck too, maybe. It could be an exciting time where we don't have to just pick 2 rucks and be done with it. Let's jump into the players here. Who are we targeting? So I like hitting this button here and seeing who are the most traded out. As you can see, there's nothing else new there that's not in my team. Powell is the big one. I think it is the right time to trade Powell. You get good money out of him. His break-even's too high. He made 222k for you. He's been a ripper. Probably wins the Rising Star this year. But it is time to ship him off. People still have Goulden somehow. That's fine. I mean, he's been injured. I don't understand how people still have Goulden. Toby Green, obviously sad news for those people. They made money on him. That is frustrating. So, because I lost, obviously, I say that because I lost 60k on Rowan Marshall, so, and paid up too. So, that's probably left 100k on the table by not going Green. Who was the one I kind of liked. Warner, yep, really good time to trade Warner, I think too. Sorry about that. If you have to make a trade, I guess, I would like to carry Warner all the way through. But if you can turn Warner into something good, then do it. And then some of these are just weird trades. These bows, obviously, yep. And what's everyone bringing in? So the obvious ones, I was going to talk about this guy in a tick, but Riley Collier-Dawkins, I think this is big because he was the only rookie, and I guess no one really realised that Hinkley was going to name and play Lachie Jones. This will fast get... Well, I shouldn't say that. Lachie Jones will be the number one in this week, within a couple of hours, maybe by tomorrow. But I don't think, this is going to sound crazy, but I don't think, if you already have Lachie Jones, going a week late on Riley Collier-Dawkins isn't the worst idea. Well, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. His role is unreal, and that's because Bolton is out. He's taken Ross's role at the moment. There's a few guys not playing in that team, and he happens to be playing really good footy. He scored 88 against GWS, and and from what I heard, I was busy on the Saturday, but from what I heard and looking at his stats, he could have tonned up in that game. And Richmond, and as many ins as they've got, they're not going to drop a guy in form. So you are going to get some value out of him. He could even play the rest of the year. He could even be a really cheap, if he drops 80s and 90s, could be a really cheap M8 option. But if you're looking to bring him in just to save money, I think Lachie Jones is the better choice. Zorko was the big in. I think that's obvious. Anyone trading Marshall this week, anyone trading Green this week is just going Zorko. So unlucky to all those guys who didn't have Zorko. He wasn't really a pod at all. I thought he might have been a little less picked, but he's in the 20% now. So yeah, I paid up for him. It is what it is. You have to have Zorko now. He's probably the number one Supercoach player because he can play in both positions. And lots of people are going big on Martin. And I don't think this is a bad call either. 425 for Dustin Martin. No Bolton in the team. Dropped to 120. I'm just not sure. I think you can go... Because what's his break even? 68. So he goes up again. But at 425, he'll be 450 next week. Big deal. You can still get him in next week. And then there's still the choice of, do you go Butters next week? Do you pocket a bit of cash and go him and Butters next week, finish your forward line? It's an interesting predicament. But it was only a couple of weeks ago we were scratching our heads on who these forwards are going to be, and suddenly they're all on sale. Heaney, everyone's liking Heaney. Now, this is going to sound insane because I said this about Zorko, and I'll say it about Heaney too. This guy has burned me so many times. I've started him. There was a season where I started Heaney, I traded him out, traded him in, and traded him out again. Like, I have such a bad relationship with Isaac Heaney, to a point where at 342, I'm not even going to look at him. I can't. Ridley's getting some traction as well. He did look good. 100, I think it was, in his last game. Through scaling. Definitely didn't finish the game on 100. I think people are picking him because of his first 4 rounds. Buyer beware, I think, with Jordan Ridley. But for 480, and this guy could be, I was on track to be the number one Supercoach player in the entire season. I think you're getting an absolute steal, but just buyer beware. Oh, then the other thing is, he's obviously, what is he in 50% of teams or something? 25, but that's basically 50% of teams. So he's highly selected. So you can pick him just because you can gamble on him. Aaron Hall's another one. Lots of people are picking. Lots of people got him last week. He'd be in a lot of teams now, you'd think. 2.5. This is a pod. Okay. Quite an interesting selection there. And Ronan O'Connor, that's interesting. Wasn't named as dropped. I think the Crows will stick with him. They like their mids, especially with Matt Crouch out now for the season, or probably the whole season. I think the Crows are looking at blood midfielders. And what did he go? 47. He laid something like 9 tackles, so nearly all of these are just tackles. But he only played 50% of game time. I'm hesitant to bring any rookie in early, especially a guy like this, when there's actually not much to come in, now that I think about it, for the Crows, because Matt Crouch isn't coming. So you're probably pretty safe. If this guy plays on the weekend, you're probably pretty safe. The only thing you run a risk of is when they have the mid-season draft, if the Crows draft like a Latchford who already plays for us, or a mid 20-year-old mid, you do run the risk that the Crows put him straight in. But I think in the mid-season draft, the Crows are probably going to pick tall. They're probably done playing this game, or maybe a key defender as well, with because Talia is not. I don't know where he is. Apparently he's training, but I think they'll be looking to boost those stocks. But keep that in mind. By picking O'Connor, you are running the risk that this guy just randomly gets booted and never comes back. So do keep this in mind. Totally fine pick though. If he plays 80% of game time, that's a 90. So I'll probably get him in next week. Oh jeez, I'd like to do 2 primos next week. Frustrating. I need to think about that. I probably could go late on O'Connor even, just for the money. We'll see. I think it's not the worst pick, and he'll be a pod. We'll see. So let's take a quick look as far as what sort of trade options am I going to do. So I'm just going to have a play around here. Obviously Marshall is one that I'm going to dump. He is injured. And my other choices are quite difficult. Tom Powell is the other one I'm thinking of. Or I could just be done with Mansell. I have an idea. But for the record, I had settled on bringing in Hall and Hind this week. I could do it with Powell and Marshall. I was pretty happy with that. It gets my forward line looking pretty healthy. Poulter goes up. It just makes the team. It looks pretty decent when I do it like that. But I think I want this 6 squared away. And if I can do it by just say I do Mansell here, how does that play out? I wonder. Say I go... Well, the first one would be if I can fit Zorko. That would be really nice. So if I can fit Zorko, I get 222k. So this is what I had thought about doing if I had thought that Jones was going to get... or found out that Jones was going to get named, which is this. So it gives me 86k. I don't have to lose Powell just yet, which isn't the worst. It dumps Mansell. He's probably finished. And it makes me feel quite good because I can put Jones on field. But I'd want to know that Jones is selected. Highmore is obviously may get selected too, so that won't be the end of the world. And the only reason that I'd want to do that is because the difference between doing Mansell and doing... I've got to do Jones. And doing Powell is it leaves me at this really awkward number of 425. And what can I really do with 425? Like, it's a really awkward number. And before you say what can I do with 425, just for the laughs, I'll show you why. It's because Dustin Martin is 425 and a half, and I have 425 100. So I can't do Martin, and I wouldn't do Martin anyway. So that it doesn't leave you with a huge amount. Obviously, can't do Hall. This is doing Zorko. So you have to start saying, all right, I'm not going to do Zorko. I'm going to do Hall and Martin, or Hall and it'd be Hall and Martin would be the one that makes them, or Hall and Hind, like I had looked at, which I really like. 936 to play with. The other one you can do is, and it's one that not many people are talking about, is you do Hall. I think Hall's the real deal. I'd love to get him in. I'd hate to miss him again this week, but if I can do Zorko and Jones, I probably will. And then I slide layered down. I hope that Murphy is picked. And then I run with... I've forgotten him already. Here it is. Caleb Daniel at 468, just off of 120. I really like it. I think he's back. He scored 3 tons in his last 3. Coincides with about the time Dunkley went out. And I think what happened was everyone was worried about Treloar. Everyone was worried about who Dunkley was going to lose minutes or McRae was going to lose minutes, etc. in the midfield. But what it was actually is Caleb Daniel seemed to be the one that got pushed. And Dunkley, Treloar, Bont, McRae, they did their thing. But now Dunkley's gone out. Caleb Daniel seems to have slid back into that role that he was last year, that high scoring, which was a D2, D3 role. At 468, he's primed to pick. I can throw him in like that. What that does, though, is it doesn't get me Jones. It puts Laird back in the middle, which is frustrating more than anything, because then I've got to try to slide him back up again. And it also means I've got Murphy on field. So it's sometimes when you do a trade, it might feel the best to do Hall and Daniel, because the forward line looks so much better doing it. The defense feels nice once Laird's there, but when you look at your whole team, you think, I haven't done much there. I'm not really happy with how that looks. So, yeah, realistically, I think the trade I'm going to make this week is Zorko. I'm finally on the Zorko bandwagon. Shout out to all of you guys who have been asking me who have been telling me really to get Zorko in. What are you doing? Why are you not picking Zorko? And the answer, honestly, is I don't know. I don't know why. And then I'll need to make a decision about whether I want to wait on Powell for a week, which isn't the end of the world, honestly, waiting on Powell for 1 week, or if I just flick Mansell, because I think he's finished. Out of interest, if I do Powell, well, it can't be, I have to wait on Powell for a week, so in that case it would be Mansell for Jones, and that's probably what I'm going to do, and what that will mean is I have to wait on Powell for just one more. Break even 160. He's not going to lose a huge amount of money. He could even reinvigorate his scoring. We'll see, won't we? We'll see. So I'll have a keen eye on the teams tomorrow night, just to see where we're looking as far as what I'm really going to do here. But for the time being, that's what I'll do. Jones will be on field. And I'll just feel good because Zorko will be in my team. I'll feel really happy about that. If Murphy is named, I might get away with not doing Jones at all. I just feel like Jones was, what was he? Minus 47. He's going to go up about 60 to 70k in his first week. He looks really good. Pair of 60s in his first two games. This is a show of faith by Hinkley as well, picking him even with Frederick playing good footy, and even with all of the guys that are playing in the Port team. If he gets named and put straight back in after an injury, that is a show of faith by Ken Hinkley. A big show of faith in a team that is hard to break into. So don't write that off. He'll play for the rest of the year, and you can use him through the buys. He'll bring you up to about, you could get him to 250, 300, make a good couple of 100k out of him, and pull in your last premo. I'll hit save on that one. The last thing I want to show is you're seeing all these trades. The team is really coming together. Where that leaves me is I've got a clear path to full premo. 15 trades. I've got the 4 here. Jath is probably D6 or a luxury at the end. It probably is going to be a luxury at the end. He's dropping money like you wouldn't believe. But it is what it is. His scoring is on field. I'm not too bothered. Jones will hold down this spot for a little while. In the midfield, you got your two guys. Jordan's looking unbelievable. Powell will probably flip for a high price mid next week sometime. I don't know who that is yet, but it'll be someone. And then we've got the forward line now. I mean, we're still not hugely confident. Zeeble, Zorko, Impey. I lost Marshall, so I'm now a set back a week. But I think next week I go Butters. I put him somewhere. And probably Warner takes us through to the buys. And then who will be in that 6th position, I'm not quite sure. So when I break it down like that, there's really not that many spots until I'm full premium. And I can really start thinking about, Butters. Probably get Martin in there. That's 800k. So that's probably 2 of them in next week. I'll probably put Martin in the middle for a little bit of time. Jath, I might look at someone like in the defense. Maybe that Caleb Daniel at 500k. I might even go Caleb Daniel if I can next week and try to do something funny there instead of the Butters, instead of Martin. Yeah, so you can see the team's coming together. I'm really enjoying how it's looking so far. So hopefully I get a good score boost through Zorko and all that. And now you say, before we kick out, obviously it's the captain's call. What are we going to do here? It's a great week because I've got I'll have two immense scorers on Friday night, which is Lions, which is Zorko. Two absolute scorers. The issue is they're playing Richmond, but if you look at the early teams, there's not much else to look at. Like I said, I'm not comfortable with Gawn, and despite what you think about Riley O'Brien's season, I'm not going any ruck against Riley O'Brien. So realistically, I'll loop Lions. I will run down and have a look. Who else can we run? Probably Grundy on the Sunday. Collingwood on a Sunday is an interesting one. He's probably the backup. And then it's a case of, I've got Brockman. So Brockman plays on Saturday. So works perfectly, actually. I can see what Lions does. If he puts out another absolutely ridiculous score, if he scores like he's been scoring for the last 3 weeks, in fact, short of getting his lowest score in about a month outside of this Carlton game, you'll take Lions as score, Brockman on field, see him up, and then be done with that. So that's my plan. Let me know what you guys think. What trades are you guys going to be making? Did I miss anyone? I don't think I did off the top of my head. We spoke about all the major players. Obviously, if there's guys here that you don't have yet. One I didn't speak about, and I should speak about, is Guthrie. Because I don't really talk about the guys that are in my team already, but Lions is a bit of a pod. So I'll speak about Lions. Get him in. End of story. He's owned by 3% of players. That is a tip. He's not even highly traded in this week. Lions will win you your league. At 4% picked, nobody's got him. That's nobody. So get him in. He's 630. You pay the price, and he's worth every cent. Bont, get him in. The one I want to talk about though is Guthrie. I spoke about it a little bit on the Sunday. I don't have him, and I'm not gonna have him. I think he's a bit of a trap. And the only reason I think he's a trap is because in round 5 and round 1, he scored 100 and he scored 75. And while that sounds like I'm splitting hairs, the only 2 games that Dangerfield has played this year for Geelong are in round 1 and round 5. And even this 100 with Dangerfield, you might think, well, that's fine. He can still turn up with Dangerfield. Dangerfield spent an entire half at full forward. So Guthrie does play Dangerfield's role, and that's proven in the North game, where it's basically Dangerfield's only full game this year as a fit player. So when Dangerfield is in this team, Guthrie does not score. But I know that's a sample size of 1.5, but I'm pretty adamant that is the case. Now, how far away is Dangerfield? I don't know, a little while. Maybe you can run him through. If your choice was between Lions and Guthrie, and Bont, and say Oliver, say you don't have those guys, I think Guthrie's the bottom end of that. I think if you find yourself with an extra few 100k somehow, you nailed a few picks, you're going into the buys, and you've got the money to do Guthrie, maybe. But I'd rather spend up and get a Mills, or spend up and get a Doherty or a Parrish or something like that, than I would to take Cam Guthrie. So keep that in mind. That's just my opinion, and I could be wrong. But the minute Dangerfield's back in that team, I would not expect Guthrie to be dropping out 120s and 130s. And that's going to be at the end of the season, right when you guys are playing your buys. Most of you are playing to win leagues, so when you're playing your finals, and you've got Guthrie there, and your opponent didn't get Guthrie, your opponent grabbed Lions, your opponent grabbed Bont, and Dangerfield's taken all the points off of Guthrie, don't say I didn't warn you. But, so a bit of a long one, but like I said, you throw this one on while you're at work, just whatever, just sitting in the background, doing whatever you want to do. Really appreciate everyone listening. So thanks a lot. Have a good one. Good luck. I might even drop a quick 5-minute for when the teams pull up tomorrow, and I'll show you the final trade that I make. So cheers, guys. Have a good one.